Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, obviously still traveling, but today we are going to be talking about what a China-free supply chain looks like. This is rather interesting, and this could be the shape of things to come in the future. Now, this is coming from Japanese publication Nikkei, and President Biden is basically set to sign an executive order this month to accelerate efforts to build a supply chain for things like chips, CPUs, and other strategically significant products that are less reliant on China in partnership with Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea, and possibly others as well. Now, this executive order will basically order the development of a national supply chain strategy for the United States and is expected to call for recommendations for supply networks that are less vulnerable to disruptions such as disasters or sanctions by unfriendly countries. Measures will focus on semiconductors, electric vehicle batteries, rare earth metals, and medical products, according to a draft that was got by Nikkei. Now, the order states, and I quote, that working with allies can lead to strong, resilient supply chains. Now, this suggests that international relationships will be central to this plan. The United States is expected to pursue partnerships, as I mentioned, with Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea in chip production, but also we are looking at partnering with Australia for rare earth as well. Now, the U.S. plans to share information with its allies on supply networks for important products and will look to leverage complementary production. It will also consider a framework for speedy sharing of these items in an emergency, as well as discuss things like securing stockpiles and spare manufacturing capacity as well. Partners could be asked also to do less business with China, basically trying to cut around them and excise them. I think this is going to be very interesting. Now, depending too heavily on China in the past for important products has posed security risks. Beijing has used regulations to put pressure on trading partners, such as imposing an embargo on rare earth exports to Japan in 2010, which was basically over tensions between the Japanese-administered Senkaku Islands, which China claims as their own. Now, U.S. imports about 80% of its rare earth metals from China and relies on China for as much as 90% of some of its medical products. And I've heard talk about that our complete supply chain for medicine could be, here in the United States, could be coming from China, and there's obviously some concerns about that. Now, restructuring supply chains is obviously going to take time, particularly in semiconductors. Now, the number of top chip makers in the world is limited, so these companies have to leverage to decide whether to follow America's lead or simply say, no, we're going to keep these intact. Obviously, China is a large purchaser, given their population and burgeoning tech industry as well. Now, doing this obviously will require understanding and cooperation from all of the governments involved. And I think this is actually a really important thing that we are talking about here. Some of the concerns that we have in our supply chain is the risk that could potentially be introduced. On the cybersecurity side, we're obviously looking at ideally not having products that, let's say, the government or sensitive military installations or whoever are buying that could possibly be surveilled because of simply how they are programmed or configured coming from a supplier like China. So I think this is going to be a very interesting test of the United States' resiliency with its trading partners to see how they can circumvent that. Now, obviously, the vast majority of the products that we buy here in the United States are coming from China. So essentially, when I'm buying, let's say, that Blu-ray player or that television or, whatever those things are, a ton of that stuff is manufactured in China. But what we're talking about here are more critical things that are used for production or security. And we want to make sure that supply chains aren't disrupted. So if there is an emergency, we can still buy things, whether it's the government or consumers, but we also want to make sure that we are doing that in a secure manner, that when our government is buying its technology, it's not coming already pre-hijacked. So this will be very interesting to see. I'd be curious on your thoughts and what you think of this, but the United States is looking to circumvent China. The question will be, what does China do as a response to this? They have their Belt and Road Initiative with 60, 70 countries around the globe right now. But their purchasing power and burgeoning tech industry is a real sway to a lot of manufacturers that see them as the next major market to make a lot of money. So the future is going to be very interesting. We'll see what happens, and we'll see how much sway the United States has in the world in this manner. And that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.